Okay, today we're going to read a poem called Black Valentines. What's weird about that title? Yeah, what do you think of, Mary?
I don't know. I just think Valentine's is usually pink.
Pink and what?
Red.
Red, fuchsia, anything but black, right? I associate the color black with funerals and sadness, or with sometimes scare, being afraid. Dark, I'm afraid of the dark sometimes, so, the dark night. So this is an odd poem, a very oddly titled poem. Okay, flip the packet over. Here's the poem. All right, and I think the first thing I'd like us to do is just to read the poem together. So you're going to follow along with your eyes and read, and I'm going to read it aloud, and then we're going to do some other things with it, okay, so we can dig deeply into the poem. I don't know how my mother got my father on their bed, or how she stood over him and cast the fishing line of her voice in the dark and hooked him with the barb of her question, or how he managed to swim up out of the Bourbon lake in his blood and slur something like language from his mouth of stones, or how that small, quiet woman got the courage to raise her arm and wade into the rot and sink knee-deep in the ooze and hit my father hard. Sternum, cheekbone, an eye for an eye. I can't say for sure. All I remember is pressing my face to the cool wall as if to squeeze through head first and stand a 5-year-old child between them and say, "Stop." But I couldn't do anything, so I pulled the lake blue covers over my face and closed my eyes and saw my first grade teacher cutting paper hearts, and how I took them home and taped them to my parents' walls, knowing Mother would hold her tears when Father didn't come home, and after TV I'd curl inside the lukewarm hollow of my bed sheets until I'd wake, hearing my mother's voice tearing the air to pieces, my father stumbling into the bathroom to throw his body over the toilet, and I smell the sharp pungency of his drowning. Mother dives in to save him, quiet lapping of her voice against the wooden boat of my bed. My baby, my baby. That rocking takes me under in sleep. Now, yesterday, we talked a little bit about how odd it was that Langston Hughes wrote such a positive story, right? Because literature sometimes is very, what? Dark, depressing, sometimes focuses in on the ills of our world, the hurts in our hearts. And so this poem I would classify in that category, wouldn't you? Okay, so I think the thing to do, first of all, is just tell you there's a literal side to this poem, and then there's a lot of metaphors in it. Would you agree? So in order to understand the metaphors, always make sure you understand literally what's going on in this poem. Who thinks that you know what's going on in this poem? I think that literally what Natalie said is true. There's a family, and how many are in the family? Tell me. 3. Who are the, name them? Okay, and the kid. Now, let's say this. Is the kid a boy or a girl, or do we not know? We don't know. But in my head, it was a boy. And I don't know why. I think it might be because Greg Kuzma, the poet's a boy. I don't know if I went there, or he had blue covers in his bed. I don't know if I went there, but I've always just imagined it being a boy. I don't think it matters. Just know where's a child. And I think Natalie is right that the mom is really mad at the dad because he comes home late and he's drunk. And who hears it all? And what does he hear happening in that room? Them fighting. And is it literally like a yelling fight, or is it a fight? It's both. It's both. That's exactly right. Because she raises her arm and hits the father hard. You can see that. We're going to read it again in just a minute, and you'll see it again. Now, the boy, the child, what does it do? Nothing. What does he want to do, Mary?
He wants to help, but he can't.
Okay, he can't. And so he does what instead? He hides under his covers. That's right, Meryl. And so he goes in his room and he pulls the lake blue covers over his head. You're going to be famous. You're on the video. And so he pulls the lake blue covers over his head, and he instead, what does he do? Instead of listening to them, what does he try to do? Say it again. He does go to sleep, but before that, what does he do? I'm going to read it. Okay, listen. But I couldn't do anything, so I pulled the lake blue covers over my face, and I closed my eyes, and I saw my first grade teacher cutting paper hearts. So what does he do?
He imagines something better.
He imagines something better. I like that. He goes back in time. He imagines when his teacher cut those paper hearts. And what did he do with the paper hearts? He brought them home. He's remembering how he brought them home, and he did what? He taped them on the wall. And then he does finally, he hears, he remembers again, another time his daddy was drunk. He stumbled in. His dad throws up. His mom kind of soothes him, and then the child goes to sleep. Okay, so that's the whole plot of the poem. Yes, Henry? About, yeah, the child is 5 years old, so like a kindergartner. You know what, I think, would you agree that this isn't a child's voice? Okay, I think it's told, it's the child telling the story, but now he's not a child anymore. He's what?
An adult.
That's why I think I'm worried that Greg Kuzma had this childhood. I'm thinking it's autobiographical. What?
Because in the beginning it says, like, I don't know how, so maybe it's like, yeah, you can tell it's in the past.
Right, I agree with you, Natalie. It's in the past, so it might be like an older person, maybe even your age, writing this poem, or maybe an adult writing back, looking at maybe, or telling, this story. Okay, what I want us to do now is, this poem is so full of metaphors. I want you to go back and read it and underline all of them. Go. Read it to yourself and underline all the metaphors. Okay, right now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the metaphors in here and then understand them literally. Okay, so I'm going to read the poem aloud, and I want you to pop your arm up when I come across a metaphor that you underlined. Okay, so raise your hand. I don't know how my mother got my father on their bed, or how she stood over him and cast the fishing line of her voice. Okay, I'm going to pause for just a moment there. Are any of you fishermen? Have any of you gone fishing? Okay, so I'm gonna pick on Stephen right now. Stephen, what do you think is literally happening here, where she cast the fishing line of her voice? That's obviously not literal, but what is really going on there? Okay, yelling at him. She's casting her voice at him. And so the poet calls it a fishing line of her voice. Okay, so she's really yelling at him. And now I'm going to continue that. And hooked him with the barb of her question. Tell me what that means, Stephen.
Like, got him to answer a question.
Okay, good. So someone last period said a barb is sharp. You know what a barb on a hook is? Got to be careful with those. And so she kind of lashes out with him, her sharp questioning. So what might some of the questions have been? I'm imagining. What do you think, Mary?
Something like, why do you do that?
Why are you drunk again? Why do you do this? Why do you do this all the time? Don't you see how it hurts us? I don't know what she's saying, but they're sharp, pointed questions that hook him and they catch him, right? That's what hooks do. Okay, let's keep going. Or how he managed to swim up out of the bourbon lake in his blood. Okay, good. Swim up. That's not literal. Who knows? What is literally going on there? Meryl, go ahead.
He's like, he's kind of starting to pay attention and
Okay, good.
listen to the mom a little bit. And
In his drunkenness, right?
It says bourbon lake, and that means like he's been drinking a lot. and
Very
stuff.
good.
So I guess he's trying to be a little bit better.
A more coherent, right? I think he is really drunk, and so he's trying to swim up out of his drunkenness and answer her. Okay, so he's swimming up into more of a more conscious state, a more controlled state. And so I think that's right. Now, let's talk about this. The bourbon lake in his blood. I don't think there's a real bourbon lake. Okay, so the alcohol in his blood, right? That's right. Do you know how they can tell how, you might want to jot that down but you'll remember it. I think you'll remember literally what's going on there. But do you know how they can tell how much alcohol is in your system? They take a blood test. They just draw blood, and they can tell that you have a lot of alcohol or not in your blood. And when they do, actually, I think this is true because I sat in on a jury one time on a drunk driving case. when they breathalyze like a drunk driver, they'll get a reading, but when they take them in, they'll draw blood too once they get them there, because it stands up in court better than just the breathalyzer. Did y'all know that? So a blood test is what determines, how much alcohol the person had been drinking. All right, so out of the bourbon lake in his blood, and slurs something like language from his mouth of stones. Okay, I don't think he really has a stone mouth. What do you think mouth of stones is describing, though?
Like, he's not really saying anything, and he's just kind of like mumbling.
Mumbling, good, because if you could imagine, like if you had a bunch of stones in your mouth, how would you speak? Garbled, slurred, you couldn't really enunciate. I mean, your tongue would be full of stones in your mouth, and so I think that's why, okay? And stones are heavy. All right, here we go. Or how that small, quiet woman got the courage to raise her arm and wade into the rot and sink knee-deep in the ooze. What do you think is literally going on there, Natalie?
Well, maybe, like, since it says, like, sink knee deep into the ooze, like, she's going into his, like, bourbon lake in his blood.
Okay, not literally.
To, like, wake him up.
Good. So she's kind of going into the situation. And, she could have stayed in bed. She could have already taken the child and left him. But when he comes home drunk, what does she choose to do? Eventually help, right? We remember at the bottom of the poem. But right now, initially, she's just like, I almost think sometimes we get mad at people because we wish they would change. And so our first reaction is anger. And then maybe we become more compassionate and helpful by the end of the poem. I know she does. But our first reaction is just to be angry with them and let them know this is a problem. So she kind of dives into this problem, right? She sinks into the ooze and the rot of the problem and hit my father hard. Now, I think that's literal. Okay? Sternum, cheekbone, an eye for an eye. I'm going to pause right here. This is a metaphor, an eye for an eye, but he hits, okay, maybe she's like, he's hitting her by coming home drunk and it hits her heart, but she literally is hitting him back because it hurts her heart. So it's an eye for an eye in her mind. Now, what I want to ask you here, this is just going to test you. An eye for an eye, where does that come from? Huh? No, but that's a wise person, yes?
Like in ancient times, if you stole from someone or like looked at someone else's wife, they'd like take out your eye.
Okay, but also there's another law somewhere that says, there used to be a law, if you kill her son, we're going to kill your son. Okay, but where does this law come from? Where does it say this?
It used to be like, didn't it used to be a law like a long time ago? Like,
Yeah. Where, Henry?
I think it was the Old Testament.
Okay, it's in the New Testament. It might have been the Old Testament too. But now listen, Julia, Babylon. I'm sure in that area. Yes, and yes, Egypt in that area. And in the Jewish Bible, in the Old Testament, it mentions things, and in the whole Bible, the New Testament part says not to do that. Okay, Jesus says don't return an eye for an eye, or don't turn your cheek. It says, and so it's not going to help anything. So if this comes from the Bible, what's this rhetorical tool here?
illusion.
An illusion. Very good. So you had to kind of know what that meant to understand this part of the poem. Okay, let's go on. I can't say for sure. All I remember is pressing my face to the cool wall as if to squeeze through head first and stand a 5-year-old child between them and say, "Stop." But I couldn't do anything, so I pulled the lake blue covers. Did anyone do lake blue covers? Okay, I think it's interesting. Lake blue could literally be the color of the sheets and covers, but it also could be symbolic or kind of metaphorical. What is the child doing literally here? What's he trying to do? Huh?
He's like kind of going.
Trying to go underwater so he doesn't. That's right. I love that, to drown out the noise. I know, it was a smart answer. She stole it, Henry. But he's literally trying to just drown it out. And that's when he starts imagining the first grade teacher cutting paper hearts. Now I took them home and taped them to my parents' walls, knowing mother would hold her tears when father didn't come home. And after TV, I'd curl inside the lukewarm hollow of my bed sheets. Okay, now you may not know what a hollow is, so I'm going to stop right now and explain it to you, okay? Does anyone know what a hollow is? I know I feel hollow inside sometimes, or my tummy feels hollow, yes?
I think it's like
A town?
it's like
That there are places named hollow, so remember that. But what else is it?
it's like a place. It's like a place in nature usually happens, and it's kind of just hollowed out.
Okay, it's in nature, it's hollowed out. It could be a landform that's kind of back in the hills, a hollow. It's kind of like an area. Quit, Henry. Don't do that. It could be an area, yes? An empty place. Okay, so what that is, it's lovely, right? It's not. Let's imagine it's a big old lake. Okay? And I live on Granbury Lake, and boy, the snow or the sea-doos and the boats, they'll zip across the lake and they'll really churn it up. Okay, or the wind will sometimes as well. If I owned property on a lake, I don't know if I'd want to live out here, because I would be getting that the water would be really choppy right off my dock. I would be getting seasick just sitting in a boat off my own dock. I'd rather live right back in here, or right back in here, or right back in here. And those are called hollows. And this is like where you're a little inlet to go to a part of the lake that's kind of off and secluded and more protected by trees from the wind and from the sea-doos and from all the tourists that are there. Do you understand? So that's what a hollow is. Those hollows also basically says here that, I think I'm taping. He says here that he pulls his lake blue covers over my face and close my eyes, and then wait, where is it? I'd curl inside the lukewarm hollow of my bed sheets until I'd wake hearing my mother's voice tearing the air to pieces. So describe his bed or his area. It's a lukewarm hollow. Why does he call it that?
Because he feels safer there.
Good. It's a safe place. It's more secluded, just like I just told you about this place on the lake. Very good. We're almost finished. Here we go. It is a metaphor. Yeah, that's a metaphor too. Good job. Until I'd wake hearing my mother's voice tearing the air to pieces. We all know that metaphor, right? She's just screaming. And my father stumbling into the bathroom to throw his body over the toilet, and I smell the sharp pungency of his drowning. Okay, I don't know. What's going on there, Julia?
He's so drunk that he's just kind of like drowning.
He's drowning in his drunkenness. And then also what happens to people sometimes when they drink way too much? They throw up. And so it's the sharp pungency of his drowning. He's throwing up. And you know why you throw up when you're drunk? Your body is smart enough to say, hey, stupid brain that wanted alcohol, you're going to kill me. And so it knows to throw up the alcohol because there's too much in the blood. If you don't, you could die of alcohol poisoning. Yes?
There's this guy.
Okay, so mother dives in to save him. Did you underline that? Okay, she's literally doing what? Is she diving somewhere?
No.
What is she doing? Trying to help him out. Okay, and quiet lapping of her voice against the wooden boat of my bed. Wooden boat. Why does he describe his bed as a wooden boat? He's floating in this lake of bourbon. Very good. Yes. He's safe in the boat, but he's still on the lake of this problem, right? That's really, really cool. Okay. And wooden lapping of her voice, my baby, my baby. Who's the mom talking to? The kid?
No, the dad.
That's what's messed up about this. She's helping her husband. So 1 minute she's hitting him, and the next minute she's helping him and she's soothing him, right? That rocking takes me under in sleep. What does that mean? Pulling him down into sleep, right? That's how he goes to bed at night. That's his lullaby. Hearing the mom soothe the dad while he's throwing up. Okay, y'all understand that? Okay, here's the big question now. What do all these images have in common? They're all what? They all have to do with water. They all have to do with specifically with what?
Sinking and drowning.
And a lake. A lot of them are lake images, right? If you started looking at all of them in there, I think all of them, but maybe two of the metaphors are a lake type of motif. A motif is when there's a lot of images doing one thing. So it's an extended metaphor, but this motif, this imagery, is really, really powerful. Now you're brilliant for noticing that. But now I want to know how really brilliant you are by telling me, why did Greg Kuzma, is he just a crazy guy? Why did he write a poem about this using a lake motif? Mary.
Well, maybe he felt like he was drowning the whole time he was a kid or something.
Okay. Maybe it's his life, and maybe he felt like he was in this lake and drowning the whole time as a kid. Okay, what else? Anybody else? What does a lake have to do with this family and this life? Margaret, what do you think?
Maybe because, I don't know, because it's kind of like a lake's like smaller than like the sea, so it kind of just happens over and over again.
Okay, good. And it's
The water.
maybe it's their family in the sea of all the families and people in the world, but it's their own lake. Very good. Everyone do this with your hands. Why does it describe this family?
So rocking.
It's rocking up and down all the time. Is it sometimes here? Is it sometimes there? Okay. Okay. What are some of these metaphors have to do with lakes? Like, look at the one, like Bourbon Lake in his blood. She's drowning.
Fishing.
Okay, the fishing, all of them do. But how about this one? The sharp pungency of his drowning. Who's drowning? The husband. I like your answer better. Who's drowning, Henry? The family. Show me where drowning is on your face, like with your hand. Show me where drowning is. Where is it? Be careful. I like some of you. It's like it's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, right? It moves. Show me where dead is. That's exactly right. It's up here. That's sad, but dead is there. Drowning means there's a struggle going on. Okay, I like how someone said, where's the child in all of this? Wooden boat of his bed. So he's kind of drifting along on the choppy water, whereas the mom has done what? What does it say? Where's the mom in the water? She dives in to save him. And so she's in the water. Okay, I've got to stop and demonstrate. All right, Mary.
Yes.
I'm drowning in a bourbon lake in my blood, okay? And she is up there trying to save me. Pull me up, Mary.
Oh, great.
No, pull, Mary. Is it easier for me to pull her down or for her to pull me up? Come on, Mary, pull me up. You're not saving me.
Sorry.
So, it's easier for me to pull her down. Okay, sit back down, baby. Good job. So that when a person is going through lifeguard training, one of the first things they tell you, now I'm going to abuse you some more, is don't save the person from the front. You know why?
Because then they can pull you down.
They're going crazy and they're desperate and they'll climb up on you like you're a rock and they're going to shove you down. And so the best thing to do is to get behind them so that they can't, hit you with their hands. You can drag them to shore. And it's hard when you're dealing with a drowning person because you're gonna end up drowning too. And so how is that like this family?
They're all drowning.
Yeah, if the little boy got out of the bed and went in there, I think mentally they're drowning, or emotionally they're drowning. And so a lot of that has to go on, okay? So it's a real rough and choppy existence. Okay, what I want you to do right now is all the metaphors that you have underlined on the side, I want you to either label it dad, D, mom, M, or C, child. Do that right. Label all the metaphors and who is that metaphor really kind of describing? Okay, so label it just in the margin or on the side there, and so you have it ready to go. What we're going to do is, tomorrow we're going to do the 3-triangle assignment with this poem. You're going to get to pick one word out of it to put in the middle, and we're going to draw the pictures. We're going to do the theme statement. And so we're going to do that tomorrow with this poem, but on Monday we're going to write a timed writing. Actually, we're going to prepare for a timed writing where you're going to kind of analyze all 3 people in the family and what they're going through, and you're going to look at the metaphors, okay? So don't lose this handout. You did a great job helping me understand this family today and what they're going through. I want to just say this. All of us have quirky families and family members and some dysfunction in our homes. Every single one of us does. Every year I teach this, someone actually ends up coming to tell me, Miss Raines, I deal with this a lot at my house too. And so if you're feeling kind of sad, last year I had a kid who was really sad, and I talked to him, and you know, we understood what was going on, and I think she just needed someone to talk to about it. So just know, I'm not trying to, you know, make anybody sad by reading this poem. Why do we sometimes read literature that's a little bit more dark or a little bit more sad? Why do we do that? Maybe to help us be more compassionate and understanding, but also to help us not feel so alone. Because, you know, when we read about sad things, it's just a part of life that we're all going through stuff. Save this packet, please. If you need to talk to somebody, just stick around and you can talk to me later, all right? We're going to do some artwork tomorrow, so bring your best, you know, pencil.